Hello. How's it going tonight, everybody? I'm going to give my quick thoughts about tonight's Smackdown live from Jacksonville, Florida. I thought it was a pretty entertaining show, better than most weeks on SmackDown. Last week's episode was pretty good as well. Um, it was it was a show that built to next week's show, but it wasn't like stalling or bad or anything. But it definitely built up a lot for next week's show. Show kicked off with a match between the Usos and the Street Profits. This was a championship contenders match. In this match, they didn't give away too much, really. You know, you don't want to dip your hand too much in the cookie jar with a. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. With a match that's going to be a big time match eventually, you know. So just them doing basic moves. You know, of course, Montez forward hit. Tope Con Hero got themselves disqualified. So it'll either lead to, you know, another rematch where the Street Profits will win and get a title match at Extreme Rules, or Mike Pierce, or no, Adam Pierce and Sonya Deville will just give the Street Profits a match at Extreme Rules for the Tag Team Championship. But just nothing match, nothing inoffensive about it. Just, you know, your basic opener. Give me a second. I'm opening locked myself out of my phone because I'm an idiot. I'm trying to think what was after that. After that, I believe was the Becky Lynch promo. Pretty decent promo. Becky's probably the best woman on the mic. She talked about how, you know, it's not her fault that Bianca Belair wasn't ready for her at SummerSlam, which she has a point. You know, that's probably the best thing with some heels is that there's a little bit of truth in what they're saying. But I mean, you listen to the reaction that Becky Lynch is getting, and she's not a heel. You know, it's stupid that they're trying to make her one. I mean, I get if she's the one who wanted to come back as a heel, but it's not going to work. You know, she's still going to get cheered like crazy. Anyone that she goes up against is going to get booed. Same, like, you know, she mentioned Bianca Belair in this promo. You know, she was like the EST of WWE. That was a terrible accent, but you know, she mentions her and people start booing. You know, so anyone that goes against Becky Lynch is going to get booed. So trying to make her a heel is really stupid. As I was saying, Becky Lynch, she's cutting a promo. Then Bianca Belair comes out, basically says, you know, I will be more prepared this time. You took the cheap way out. You know, I will win back my championship at Extreme Rules. And, you know, starts listing off why she's the greatest, the fastest, and the best. But at this point, this is when Becky Lynch, as Corey Graves said, Becky Lynch proves she is the smartest. Bianca Belair wanted to have a championship match. She's egging her on, like, oh, come on, Roman Reigns is defending his championship. Why don't you defend your championship tonight against me? And Becky Lynch is like, I don't give a shit what Roman's doing, and walks away. You know, that's the smart part of Becky Lynch, you know. So I like this segment. I thought Bianca came off well. Becky Lynch was Becky Lynch. So, yeah, nothing inoffensive about this at all. Like I said, the show, there really wasn't anything bad except for Dolph Ziggler and Toni Storm. That was so freaking stupid. Like, Toni Storm is in the back. You know, she hasn't been on screen in 5-6 weeks, I believe. And she's just standing there, and Dolph Ziggler's flirting with her. And he's like, oh, I got a front row seat for you tonight for a match against Rick Boogs. And she's like, well, I'm actually rooting for Boogs tonight. And it's like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, on a show tonight that didn't have any women's matches, you're just going to have a stupid segment like this with, you know, a rising star in Toni Storm and somebody nobody gives a shit about with Dolph Ziggler. And I mean, no offense to Dolph Ziggler, I think he's great and all that, but this segment was freaking stupid. As was the match with Rick Boogs. I like Boogs. I like his act with Nakamura. I think they got a really great thing going, but I didn't give a crap about this match, and I don't think anyone did. It's cool to see Boogs wrestling. I'd like to see him and Nakamura maybe eventually go after the tag team championships, just so we can have some new blood in that division. But I mean, this was a nothing match. This was maybe, and it was nothing, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't offensive. So I'm not gonna crap all over it, but this was probably the worst thing on the show tonight. Probably the best thing, Paul Heyman's in the back. He's being interviewed by Kayla Braxton whenever his phone starts going off, and it's Brock Lesnar. And the funniest thing, well, the second funniest thing, I'll get to the funniest thing here in a minute, was that Brock Lesnar's ringtone and Paul Heyman's phone is Brock's theme song. So he's being interviewed, and he's here, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yes, I'm not in private right now. I can't talk. And Kayla Braxton just has this shitting grin on her face. And Paul Heyman just cuts the interview off. And he bumps into a janitor. And he's like, oh, you should take out that trash, talking about Kayla Braxton. And then it's Big E in disguise, and he starts laughing and holding up the Money in the Bank briefcase. That part was so funny, just with Big E and his laugh. I think, they haven't teased anything about Big E going after Bobby Lashley. And now that New Day feud is now to where if Big E cashed in on him, it's like, well, he's not getting revenge for his brothers, so why? What's the point? Like last month, whenever Bobby Lashley had dismantled Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, it made sense, but now it doesn't make sense. So the main tease they've been doing with Big E is him. If Big E cashes in, he's going to have a chance, because the main event of WrestleMania is going to be Roman Reigns and The Rock. I think Roman's going to lose the belt, which sucks because Big E would be great. Looks like the connection's messed up. Let's see how it goes. But as I was saying, Big E's great and all that, but we'll just have to see how it goes. What was the next after that? Oh, Seth Rollins and Cesaro. They didn't really have as good as match as they had at WrestleMania, but it was still a pretty fun little match, a good filler portion of the middle part of the show. Seth Rollins hits a buckle bomb on Cesaro, and Cesaro had a great sell of it. As soon as he bounced off the buckle, he just immediately starts grabbing his neck and acting like he got hurt, like what happened with Sting. So a great sell by Cesaro on that part. Cesaro, everybody knows he's one of the best wrestlers in the whole world. So it was no surprise that he had a great sell of just a simple move. Seth Rollins, throughout this match, he was using Edge's moves. He used the educator and the little backdrop that Edge does. They were telling is that Seth Rollins has to be more like Edge in order to beat Edge. So he starts copying Edge's moves. But it got really stupid at that point, just because, they say, oh, he's Edge Light. No, he's Seth freaking Rollins. That's who he is. He's not a copy of anybody. And I don't like that they're portraying him like that. I don't want him to be Edge Jr. I want him to be Seth Rollins, 5-time world champion. Knew the main event was going to be like that. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought the show altogether was good, but the main event was a foregone conclusion. And with Roman Reigns and Finn Balor, they've had a bunch of matches. I know we haven't seen it for 3 years, but I mean, if you've watched any of their matches before, you've seen this one. I'll touch on that here in a little bit after I finish reading off the other segments from this show. As I was saying, Cesaro, he counters a sling blade into a swing. That was freaking awesome. Like I said, that was one of the coolest counters I'd seen into the swing. He spun him around 20 times, got him into the sharpshooter. Seth Rollins gets out. Then Seth Rollins goes to the outside of the ring. Cesaro's going for an uppercut, and that's when Seth Rollins hits him with the chair for a DQ. The second DQ of this show. That was one thing I did not like. Two matches in a disqualification. After that, Seth Rollins starts beating on Cesaro with the chair, gets him back in the ring, hits him with the chair one more time, and then breaks off the leg of the chair like what Edge was doing to Roman Reigns, and puts the chair leg in his mouth and starts choking him out in a crossface with the chair leg. Again, this was kind of, like I say, he's copying Edge again, but it's stupid. I don't agree with him copying Edge. If the boss ain't on, what's the point of the women's division? I mean, thing with that is, we don't know what's going on with Sasha Banks. If she was healthy and all that, her not being on the show is stupid, but we still don't know if she broke something, or if she's pregnant, or if maybe she has something going on with COVID like Keith Lee had. Who knows? So I think if it's nothing serious, like maybe if it was just a quick bout with COVID or something, she'll be back probably next week at MSG, signing next week. They're going to have a contract signing next week, and it wouldn't surprise me if they copied what they did last month with John Cena and had Sasha Banks interrupt that contract signing and make that match at Extreme Rules a triple threat. As I was talking about with Seth Rollins and Edge, or Seth Rollins and Cesaro, he's choking him with the steel leg from the chair. And it isn't until Seth Rollins goes outside the ring to go get another chair. He's going to do a concerto to Cesaro. That's when Edge comes out and saves Cesaro. This made Edge look like a fucking dick. He won't come out when he's getting choked out with a chair leg, but he'll come out and whenever Rollins is going to do another dangerous move on him. This was stupid. All this did was make Edge look like an asshole. Rollins gets out the ring, runs away from Edge. He goes through the crowd. Edge is in there checking on Cesaro. Like I said, this was stupid. It made Edge look like a freaking dick. Announced for next week after this was that Brock Lesnar is coming to Madison Square Garden next week. Brock Lesnar coming to MSG next week, probably to confront Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. That'll be interesting to see what's going on there. And then after this, Edge is interviewed in the back, says that he wants another match with Seth Rollins. That's going to happen next week at Madison Square Garden as well. Like I said, they're loading up the show next week because, it's a big show. It's the first time they've ran MSG in 2 years, the first time they've ran it since COVID happened. So it's a big show, and so this show felt like it was building up to a pay-per-view kind of. But this was a better go-home show for a show next week than they do for a pay-per-view. Yeah, Raw is boring. That's why I don't have any thoughts about them having Nia Jax and Charlotte. If I could touch on that real quick, that was yo, Nia Jax gets a freaking championship match against Charlotte. After what happened on last week, I would have just dropped that freaking story because, I mean, Nia Jax is so freaking dangerous in the damn ring, and I don't blame Charlotte for freaking slapping her. I mean, that is so stupid. When I saw that commercial during SmackDown tonight, I was just like, fuck off. Like, I don't want to watch that match again. It's a match we've seen a bunch of times. That's what's boring about Raw. It's the same matches over and over and over again. Every day, over and over. Like, that's what Raw is. It's watching a movie you've seen 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times over. Next up was the square cut out. I don't know what you mean on that square cut out. Baron Corbin, he's on the KO show after this. He thanks Kevin Owens for getting him out of his rut and inspiring him to not be broke. This was a decent promo work. Baron Corbin, he's been knocking it out with this character he's been portraying. So I have no complaints about this segment until they freaking brought out Logan Paul, which Logan Paul is a proper celebrity. You think they would advertise that to get more people to watch SmackDown. Instead, they just have him as a surprise appearance, which, is probably cool for the people inside the venue and all that, but it was like, it doesn't make sense if you're trying to get ratings for this show. I will say Logan Paul is a better celebrity guest than Tiffany Haddish. At least he actually knows like the terminology of wrestling. So that's, at least he didn't make a fool of himself like she did on SummerSlam on the United States Championship, the National Championship. Logan Paul, he makes fun of Kevin Owens' wardrobe and offers him $100 to get himself a new one. Kevin Owens rejects it and slaps it out of his hand, and then they get in a shoving match, and it looks like they're about to go at it, and then Baron Corbin cheap shots him. It wouldn't surprise me if next week on SmackDown we get Kevin Owens versus Baron Corbin in a match again, which would be like the 4th time we've seen it in the last 2 months. So, they're going to have another match eventually, and then they'll probably have another match at Extreme Rules. That'll probably be, Extreme Rules match or a Street Fight or something. They're building to that. After that, let's see what we have. Dominic Mysterio and Sami Zayn. This was nothing. This was another nothing match. There wasn't anything offensive about it, but Dominic gets distracted by Rey Mysterio and gets kicked in the face. That's what happened. I don't know what they're going with this Dominic storyline. If there's just going to be him and Rey are going to have a match eventually. You think that will build closer to WrestleMania time, or maybe it's going to be a redemption story for them to win the tag team championships back again. But they kind of ran through everything they could do with the Usos. It's time to, go after someone different, unless they get drafted to Raw. That could happen, and then if they get drafted to Raw, I don't think RK Bro will be tag team champions by October. I think they'll probably end up dropping the belts to Mustafa Ali and Mansoor, and that'd be a really good match. So maybe that's what they're building to. I don't know. It's kind of hard to guess on this right now. But after that, we got to the main event. Finn Balor, he cuts a little promo before the match says, I lost the Universal Championship 5 years ago, and tonight I'm going to get it back. And it was at this point I was thinking, damn, it's been 5 years since he won the Universal Championship. And I had to start thinking, I'm like, yeah, he debuted in NXT in like 2014. He was on the main roster by 2016. He's been around for a long time, and it just made me think, like, man, time's been flying with Finn Balor. So same thing with, like, I saw on Twitter about, Kevin Owens won the Universal Championship 5 years ago, and I remember watching that show like it was yesterday. So definitely like a little punch in the face, like, damn, I'm old. For the match, Usos attacked Finn Balor. I mean, that's how it goes with every Roman Reigns match. The Usos are a security blanket for Roman Reigns. They attack the people he's going to face. That's why he's been Universal Champion for a year. Match starts off with Roman Reigns beating up on Finn Balor, but then Balor eventually lands a kick, starts mounting a comeback. Like I said, this was basically like any Finn Balor Roman Reigns match that you've ever seen. Roman, he'll throw Finn around, he'll beat up on him, and then Finn will start using his legs and start attacking. It's just your same old stuff. Like I said, you've seen any Roman Reigns Finn Balor match, you've seen them all, but that's not saying that it was a bad match. It was still a pretty good match. It's the same formula over and over again. Randy needs one more single run. Yeah, I think Randy Orton, I think he'll end up being a 16-time world champion like Ric Flair and John Cena. I think they'll let John Cena break the record first. But Randy Orton, he's like, what, 44, 43 maybe? He's still not that old, even though he's been in WWE for 20 years, So, yeah, I think he'll win the belt 2 more times. I mean, like I say, he's not done. I mean, I think Matt Riddle will eventually win the Universal or WWE Championship, and they can call back to that feud, and they can have, World Championship matches. So I think that'll happen eventually. It was okay to rewatch that. Yeah, like I said, I'm not complaining about Roman Reigns and Finn Balor. I like that match. It's just I remember that very first match they had back in 2016, and that one's still probably my favorite. And this match tonight was very reminiscent of that. And like I said, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just you kind of know what you're getting. He's going to be thrown around like a rag doll. He's going to hit Finn Balor's going to hit a few shotgun drop kicks, and then coup de grace Roman Reigns. And, speaking of which, that freaking coup de grace and then Roman Reigns kicking out and punching Finn Balor in the dick, that was freaking smooth. Like, that was something where you're like, that came out of nowhere, to where, like, it came out of nowhere to me. So, like, if the official didn't see it, then it's not like it didn't make the official look stupid, which I like. John Cena makes me want to turn off my TV. I like John Cena now just because it's little doses. If it was every week where like he was running comedy segments and stuff like that, it'd be annoying. But less is more, especially when it comes to wrestling. So, I mean, I liked that little run he just had. He was advertised for next week on local ads for the Madison Square Garden show. But they didn't say anything about it. You think they would have aired a commercial for it tonight, but they didn't. So maybe he won't be on that show. Roman Reigns, he gets Finn Balor in the guillotine, chokes him out, and picks up the win. after the match, Finn Balor is just laying there. Roman Reigns is walking out of the ring, and then you hear the demon heartbeat, and then the lights flash red just for a split second. And Roman Reigns has this little confused look on his face, like, what was that? But then walks away. So if they're teasing that Finn Balor is going to bring out the demon, I'll be happy with that. Yeah, like I like the demon get up. I mean, Finn Balor's matches aren't different whenever he has the makeup on. Like, it's still the same moves and all that. But I mean, the demon makeup looks cool. The entrance is, I think, the best in WWE. I like his entrance more than what the Fiend had, and the Undertaker's entrance is cool because it's iconic, but I like the theatrics of the demon entrance more. The only thing is, I don't want him to bring the demon out against Roman Reigns because he's going to lose. So if Finn Balor's going to go on a losing streak to where he eventually brings out the demon, that would be cool. Like, I was reading something about how on the UK tour that's coming up, they're going to have Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. So that may be the next feud after Seth Rollins is done with Edge. And then, Seth Rollins will need something to pick up momentum. So he may beat Finn Balor, and then after that, whoever Finn Balor feuds with next, he'll be desperate to get a win. So maybe he'll pick up he'll eventually transform into the demon, maybe around Royal Rumble time, and maybe he'll pick up a win by then. That's just a thought. What if, he transformed into the demon and won the Royal Rumble and faced Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania? They had that WrestleMania match a few years ago, and that match was pretty decent. And that match was also against the demon, so that could happen. I mean, who knows? I don't know, like, what their thoughts are. I mean, this may be just a tease for the demon, and then nothing will happen. I mean, nothing shocks me when it comes to the creative team. But overall, I thought this was a pretty good show. Like I said, you had 2-0 segments with Rick Boogs and Dolph Ziggler, and Dominic Mysterio and Sami Zayn. Both of those were, nothing segments, but they weren't offensive, so I didn't mind them. They were built-in pee breaks. That's what they were. I'm trying to see if I missed anything. Nope, doesn't look like I did. So I'm not going to review Smackdown every week. I just watched tonight's show, and I wanted to give my input on it. But if I do watch it next week, because next week does look like a pretty good show, I'll probably come back and review next week. So if the guy that's been watching with me during this live stream, or that's been sticking with me, if you want to go ahead and subscribe and turn on the little bell to get a notification about when I go live next week, I'd love to have you back, man. Anyone that watches this in the future, let me know what you guys thought of the show and what you think the directions are going to be for the people on SmackDown. I appreciate anyone that wants to watch or comment or, interact with me about wrestling. I really appreciate it. I'll be back next week to review SmackDown from MSG with Brock Lesnar and Edge versus Seth Rollins. And I'm trying to think of like a good way to end this. But yeah, if y'all want to tune in next week, I'd greatly appreciate it. Everybody have a good night.